Did you see that? Did you see my goofy face? You missed out. You missed out on delight. I had the dumbest face. I guess before I go off on this, welcome to Just Delightful, the first YouTube channel where two old white guys complain about Star Wars.
Shocking.
I'm your old white guy host, Delightfully Drew, and this is
Mr. Needle.
Mr. Needle. One day you guys will understand all these jokes, and you will buy the swag that we push incessantly like a-holes.
Someday.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should probably start a Patreon now. I think that's fair to say, yes?
I don't know.
I don't either. But everyone else has one, so why not us? Now, one of the big questions I want to start off with, and we'll talk about the topic of the show. One thing I want to talk about is I have, just for you, Mr. Needle, if you could please rate the most pretentious water and which order you would like for the pretentious to occur. So first we have a glass of Bublé, Michael Bublé. He spit in this can for me and sealed it. So we have Michael Bublé water.
Like flavored of some nature?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. It's cherry flavored.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah. We have a lemon lime Waterloo, which is lemon lime. It's like Sprite without any fun. It's Sprite without the E, so it's just Sprit. And then we have Topo Chico served in have to have a bottle opener top bottle. Which is no flavor. It's just bubbly water. You have any preferences?
Well,
which one's the most pretentious to you?
Obviously, the bottled one is the most pretentious. And then I really would rate the other two on the same level.
Okay, well, that's good because that's kind of what the point of the point of the show is we're looking at the best of the worst from 2020. Now, we talked about this before the show started. We wanted to at least be straightforward in this new YouTube channel that 6 people will watch. We have one live watcher, which could be either my wife, could be your wife, could be my mom. I hope not. It could be Jeff, Melissa.
Oh, good.
Nobody knows. All right, so
important. I feel like it puts me at a different state of elevation, knowing that we have somebody watching.
Yeah, and so that's fantastic. Now, one other side note, real quick. You've been off caffeine. Did you have some caffeine before we did this?
I got a Red Bull right here.
Yeah, we got a little Red Bull.
Yeah.
All right. It's going to give you some wings, you might say. Do you ever think about wings when you're talking about underpants?
No, really the only time I think about wings is when I think about your obsession with the TV show.
It's really true because I absolutely adore Tim Daly. His Tim Daly and Steven Weber are the delight. And we have a little look at this. Look at this. Jeff Etheridge. I wonder who it is. There he is. Jeff, Melissa. We call him Melissa Etheridge. We're gonna bring him on the show at some point because he is just as delightful as you and I when we get on a tear. All right, let's go into the best of the worst. So the purpose of this video after the 4-minute rant, opening it up, is that we're going to talk about the best and worst. Now, these are we've kind of broken them down. We had a long discussion ahead of time. These are kind of our best of the worst ideas. They're not subject to anybody else's list. They're just our own. And the reason that these exist here is because they have failed spectacularly in one way or another, and maybe even triumphed through that failure, which makes them just delightful. Is that fair to say?
I believe so.
Yeah.
It's created a lot of stuff for people to talk about.
Yeah, that's really what we do on this show is find whatever.
And for the other community. So it's all stuff that's already been out there and everybody talked to death on it. But hey, maybe we have a different perspective.
Yeah, that's true. And, once we start rolling out more stuff, there'll be more of that. But for this particular piece, let's roll into it. I wish I had a really cool graphic. I was supposed to do that, but I didn't. I got busy with work. But if we had a cool graphic, it would be right here with like some kind of do and some horns and the fail logo. But that's what it would be.
Speaking of graphics, though, the DeLorean there is custom, so we didn't just find that on the internet. That is like with our artist, and as we go on, hopefully we can like get more art from him and incorporate kind of little animations and fun things, because that's actually part of a little like 10-second animation.
Yeah, what I think would be really awesome is if you like this piece here, we'll figure out how to throw it up there for you. If you like this piece here, then I think it would also be cool if you wanted, another piece, like if there's something you wanted to see, then I think we could reach out to him, like, what's a movie you want to see that we can throw up there. I'm going to see if I can pull it up real quick on a graphical. But yeah, his art is super fun, and I'd love to see other movies. I think there's potentially a Goonies one out there somewhere that we have, right?
Yeah, just like a quick snippet, but
yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
yeah. This little piece, it's just so great because it's better than Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
All right, back to the games. All right, so we're gonna dive right in. So, what do you want to start with?
After 5 minutes.
Well, that's how the show works. You know, it's a live stream. Somebody's complaining. They can, if they want to get right to the chase, go watch Star Wars Theory. Oh, shots fired. Shots fired. Pablo Hidalgo is going to give me a high five through his underpants. I don't know what any of that means, but I said it live, by the way.
You're all good people, except for the ones that aren't.
That's exactly right. Let's start out with what we care about least, which would be TV. Is that fair?
Sure. Yeah.
So in this TV category, and again, this is the maybe the media fails of 2020, the best of the worst. In this TV category, we've included streaming as part of that, and I think it's important that you do because look, TV is not TV anymore. Streaming is kind of taking over. The fail a few years ago would have been TV to streaming, and now it's just all kind of the same thing. So we have some nominees, and we'll just kind of talk through them. Jim, do you want to take on one of the nominees first and jump right in there? Or do you want me to jump in?
No, I think we should talk about. We already mentioned it, but we should talk about the Pablo versus Star Wars Theory because it's kind of rolled into it is the reason why we're doing this today.
That's true.
Because from that came people that have started speaking out about how they feel about basically fandoms being disrespected. People that are dumping money into stupid media stuff because they love it, and they're getting disrespected left and right by the people that create it, who are making millions of dollars. And so all these people that have come before us that we respect, they say, speak up. We want to hear your voice. And that's why we're here, because we can't just sit back and let those people keep putting their voices out there and taking that chance. So we're here to add to it. Reinforce that there's more of us, you know.
No, I totally agree. I think it's a fascinating scenario. We've talked about this late. There's a bunch of stuff to unpack, and if you don't know what happened, Hidalgo, who's the president of Story Group or whatever for Lucasfilm, it appears, because it was a private thread, but it appears that he made fun of a gentleman named Star Wars Theory, who Jim and I have differing opinions on, but regardless, he is a content creator and he's very successful. And the guy had an emotional moment to watching Luke Skywalker in Mandalorian, and it became a viral kind of video. And anyway, it appeared that Pablo made a snarky remark. My dog barking, and that just sent down this spiral of chaos. But from that, what was fascinating is the number of people on both sides. So you had these camps start forming, right? And this is where you and I got onto this tangent, is like, you know, Theory has a right to say whatever because it was about him. But then, like, everybody else kind of jumped in line and started doing their own videos and their own opinions on it, and it just kind of kept boiling over and over and over and over. And some people hated Theory, but were still like lighting them up. It was kind of fascinating.
And and from that, though, it's like there's clearly one side that was bullying and the other side that was kind of being bullied, and that was Star Wars Theory being bullied. And it seems to always come from that side that thinks they're the good guys, which is right. Weird. It's like, you know, just the goalposts are constantly being moved. And it's like if a dude wants to show his emotions, it's not necessarily something that I think I was moved that much by, even though I enjoyed it. But yep. I'm not going to stop him from doing it. You know?
Yeah, but I don't know why somebody would be upset with a guy crying over it. Like, and he had an explanation. He's like, the dog's chasing their tail. Sorry. I'm sitting outside, by the way, by a fire because that is what I thought was the most delightful place I could possibly sit. But it's kind of it's a scenario of where this guy's watching. He has emotional connection. It's his story. So not to push people away from this video, but I mean, I don't want to recap somebody else's personal thing, but he cried because he had a reason. He had a reason for it. And, you know, then here the same group that sometimes has told us how to think and feel is turning around and saying, hey, you shouldn't think and feel that. It just seemed very odd. It's a weird situation, but it's definitely a fail because on all sides, nothing good came of it. It was actually the most counterproductive argument series that I've seen in a long time to have one group disrespect their own fandom, and in turn that fandom get shat down. Yeah.
Yeah, it happened for years. And so one of the arguments somebody made was whenever Ahsoka came on The Mandalorian, there were people crying. There were women crying. And that's fine. Again, that's cool. I don't care. But then it's a double standard of Star Wars theory being a guy then crying. And it's like, and we talk about all the gender stereotypes and all that stuff, and then they make fun of him for it afterwards. It's just mind-blowing that all these people speak of living a certain lifestyle, and then they turn around and shatter that wall with lies.
Well, that's the bigger problem that part of our conversations have always stemmed into, and this part of Just Delightful is just sometimes pointing out the fact that, like, it is a little silly that what's the difference in him crying and anybody else crying? Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, why is one lifted up over and one group lifted up over another when they're both having the exact same emotional reaction? Like, I got emotional seeing Ahsoka. Like, she's my favorite character. My kids know her. Like, it's a big deal. But I got more emotional over Luke because I have so we all have a connection to it. And it's just odd to me that in a Star Wars sense, in a space that's supposed to be this all-inclusive space, that it's turning into its own fandom, has had some exclusivity problems. But even outside of that, the people that are condemning the exclusivity are now making exclusivity remarks. It's really just silly.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're good on that. I think it's just understanding that's we don't want to really disrespect anybody. But at the same time, like, why would you watch content if it's not good?
Yeah, absolutely. My dog has gone bananas over there.
I don't know what's happening. Mine.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of them. The next one that is interesting to me is one of the most economic fails, and I followed it for a while. I never paid for it. I don't know why there wasn't a free beta or something, but was the situation with Quibi. And it's tremendous because if I'm not mistaken, the exact number, I might be off here, but approximately $350 million was put into the launch of Quibi. Now, COVID-19, pre-2020, I had friends that worked on movies. They worked on, I want to say it was originally an Antoine Fuqua movie that became a John Singleton film, maybe. It was like an action movie with Jamie Foxx. I don't even know if it came out, but the whole thing was he didn't know it was called Quibi at the time, and the gentleman that was telling me the story about it was like, yeah, it's really weird. They're shooting it in parts. The script is broken down that way. Like, they approached this as if they were making a feature film in 10-minute chunks.
I got so weird. Nobody wants to watch that.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. And he said there was like weird breaks that would have, kind of happen throughout the process of them putting it together. Like, the shooting process was different because they also, the coolest thing that came from Quibi, because again, something good came from it. Something good came from the Pablo versus Star Wars Theory scenario, which is the group, the fans rising up. But like the Quibi side of it, Quibi came up with a technology that no way you hold your phone, it kind of reframes the film, which is good or bad, right? The potato gag of, like, people say that this is potato, I heard, or something the kids say. But they invented something that had never been done before. So that's fascinating. But then the content they put out, it was expensive and no one cared about it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Now, do you think the failure came because there's a lot of blame on COVID? But I would argue, wouldn't that make it a bigger failure, the fact that it came out during a pandemic when everyone is sitting home, can't do anything, and all they can do is watch content and nobody's watching it?
Yeah, I mean, across the board, all the ratings are down for everything, and there's two kind of routes you can look at that. Like, one, those viewership numbers are somehow being gobbled up in streaming platforms and by private companies, and we're not able to see what those numbers are. So it's like the NBA finals with their ratings being so low. It's like, was that because people were watching it through an app at home?
Right.
Or was it because people just weren't watching it?
Right. And
I don't know. I mean, the internet explodes with, the vile nature of wanting the NBA to fail, which, that's a whole other topic. But so it's like, I don't think we know the answers to those things to be so arrogant to say the exact reason why things are occurring. But they didn't have a platform. So, like, the thing about YouTube TV or whatever, YouTube Premium, what I think is what it's called now, which is awful. They had Cobra Kai, and they had other stuff too, but you don't know any of that. I don't know. I can't name one other thing that YouTube had that they were creating as their own IP, but it wasn't enough. And they didn't have. You need to have a pre-established brand going into something for people to latch onto it, and they didn't have.
Agree. But it seems like you'd put stuff out for free. But even then, I mean, YouTube TV dropped Cobra Kai after a while, or did Netflix acquire it from like a buyout type scenario?
Yeah, I think. Well, Sony Television actually produces the show, and I don't know if they produced season 1 and 2. So I think it was. It's like the classic licensing deal. How the Marvel shows were technically licensed to Netflix, or Netflix might have chipped in for the production, but all that stuff gets so gray. You can probably talk eloquently about it more than I can because you have content on those platforms.
Yeah. I mean, I did. I had a feature. All of my features have made it to Amazon. That's even as to quote Triumph, the comic dog, even the worms in my stool have a show on Amazon. But like Amazon's easier to get onto. iTunes is a little bit challenging, and we've been on all those kind of platforms as far as the streaming side of it goes. But we've not been on, or I haven't been on Netflix, but with one film, and it was a long process to get there. And frankly, it didn't pay very well. I think the prestige of being on Netflix, the branding was good, but otherwise it wasn't. So it's kind of one of those things. These streaming content things, that's where they have to make originals, is to make it work. Because the old days of like everybody getting a film onto Quibi or not anymore, but onto all these other pieces existed, and then it became too accessible, and now they have to be exclusive again. So there's so many streaming networks they have to have. What is it? Peacock has the new Saved by the Bell, which is insane. So it's just all that stuff. But the fail comes in the sense that Quibi lasted 6 months. It was a 6-month product backed by Facebook. Jeffrey Katzenberg, whatever his name is, Bergenstein, the guy that used to be over DreamWorks was in charge of it, and he's brilliant, and it didn't work. Like, so it's a real, maybe it was just a giant money wash. I don't know. It's a pretty big fail.
So in connection, another fail connected to the TV that's not on our list is The Expanse. Not from the perspective of the quality of the show. Like, I watched season 1, and I feel like I watched it 4 years ago, as it was coming out, and so I never really revisited it. So I feel like I would need to go back and watch season 1 again, and I just don't feel like it. So I have never really gotten into the show. But the fact that they released the past 2 seasons now all at once and didn't use the social media build-up like The Mandalorian did, I think it killed the show, because they already announced that the next season is going to be the final season. And it's like probably because there's no buzz around it. Because how can you have a buzz when you just drop something, especially for like science fiction nerds that probably aren't on Twitter talking about how awesome it is, whereas something like Stranger Things, where you get that audience on Twitter that will talk about it. And so because there's no buzz, there's not going to be like that follow through, and people already forgot about it. Like, who cares? Yeah. It's here, it's gone, whatever.
Yeah, interestingly enough, in searching out and making sure I said Jeffrey Katzenberg's name correctly, I did come across this article. Hopefully it shares it correctly. Yeah. So check this out. It's kind of fascinating. Roku is now in talks to buy the rights to Quibi. So if they're going to get their license, talking about the license play, that's a pretty big deal, man. If they're able to secure all that, because look down, look at this stuff. They have like Guillermo del Toro, Spielberg, all these other projects, or whatever they're saying. It's like, it's just this big launch of product to go down. And they just closed in December 1st. So if they're able to pull that off, that's going to be pretty spectacular. If you think about it, like, that's a pretty big deal. That's pretty cool, because that content will go live somewhere. And it's interesting that Roku would do it, because that means Roku might be going for a play, which is fascinating.
Yeah. Right. I comment on the Roku thing. Like, if I go to the Roku, I go to a channel I know about. Like, I could go to Crackle because I know I can watch a free movie, but I know I'm also going to have to watch an ad. And I guess people do that. I don't do it. So what I'm saying is I don't really search on Roku outside of the things that I know I want to watch. And how do you do that?
I don't know. I guess I mean, I sometimes search through. You say Roku, I say Roku. I don't know what's correct. I'm from
I have
South.
no idea.
I don't know.
We're gonna have to battle for that one for the next 5 years.
Yeah, that sounds great. And Friendship Over. This is the one and only episode of Just Delightful.
We're all done here.
I do search with it a good bit, but I actually have gotten very specific. Like I do a lot more digging on something, and before I go and watch it, like I don't know. I guess it's not that I think my time is precious. It's just that my farts are, and so I don't want to waste my farts in front of the wrong television.
Well, speaking of that, I put up about 10 garbage B horror movies for your wife on Plex last night. So
delightful. She'll be thrilled. The problem is, I think she shows them to our kids, so we're gonna have like little horror critters growing up. Who knows?
They're terrible.
We did get a comment from Jeff Etheridge who says, and I think it's back to the fandom thing. It's because people on the internet feel that they can be shitey to someone all they want because of anonymity. It makes them feel better about their own shitey lives. At which point, he's right, and it is internet anonymity is the most toxic thing on the. I mean, next to Twitter, I think Twitter's the most toxic, but that's personal opinion. I don't use Twitter. I know you're a little more versed than me. And the best thing about Jeff's comment was he was like, that comment was late. Nothing says delightful like late comments. The other piece in our TV category would be too much politics in television content, meaning like it's not just an idea. It's not about excluding anyone. It's about inclusion, but it's to a point of doing it where it's tastefully done and it's the right way of putting ideas in play and celebrating those ideas instead of it just being, and again, this is opinion, instead of it just being like blatant and, a strobe light effect, right? It's like paint the scene with it, make it part of the story, make it a beautiful piece so that it is celebrated as opposed to just trivialized and taken advantage of, in my opinion. And one of the ways we saw that is I am a super defender, and I know that there are doomcocks and other folks out there that will punch me and hate me for it, but I'm a defender of Star Trek Discovery. I absolutely adore that show. I love it. I'm a fan of it. I watch every episode. I was late to the party, but now I really enjoy it. And I certainly have loved this season, which is a completely different take on Star Trek, which I think is good. It makes it feel fun. The only issue I had was, and I've defended it a lot towards a lot of people getting mad because there's, Mary Sue's and there's political stuff. And I said, no, it's not really as much as people have made it out to. And then they had a very special episode like Jesse Spano from Saved by the Bell. I'm so excited. They had a very special episode where they just really dwelled on, a character that was experiencing, I guess, a sensation of being, or not sensation, but a character felt non-binary. I don't know how to phrase that correctly without being insensitive. I'm trying to be sensitive about it. But they just dwelled on it for like a long, long time. And I am all for representation. I think it's fantastic. I think that's great. I am 100% behind it. But to a point of like, it got to a point to me where it's like, okay, got it. Okay, cool. Okay, great. Can we, how's this going to play the story? This will be cool in the story. And it never really paid off as being important to the story. What was important is that another couple, these two partners, saw they as like a kid in their family. So that part paid off. But getting to the they part, I mean, it took forever and a day, and it didn't feel like it was celebrating it. It felt like it was just saying this, because we have to. And that bothers me. I think if you're going to say something, say it with heart, say it with conviction, say it with honesty, not just because the internet told you to. And that's what it felt like to me. But there's another example of that. And you were talking about like the Batwoman scenario. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just, it's just funny, the Batwoman thing that they went for broke. And I mean, they got broke. Like the fact that they were so stunning and brave for casting a woman to fit that role, that their personal, private stuff aligned with what the character was, which is, it's kind of weird that it's not really acting if you don't go outside the bounds of who you are. I don't really understand that. To me, that's how different people know that it's okay to experience different things. Because whenever a George Clooney plays a quadriplegic, and you can relate to him knowing that he's not, helps you understand how to relate to something as well through somebody else expressing it that isn't in that situation. And
Right.
so by forcing people to be act whatever the check mark says on the script, I think it's more ist of whatever nature you want it to be an ist of, because you're really not reaching out to different people, because you are, like you said, preaching to some wokeness, and it just doesn't make sense to me. It just really doesn't. So it's just funny that the Batwoman trailer then at one point it had less views than reviewers reviewing it for season 2.
It's brutal.
It's crazy. It's crazy that, and then the companies have to be seeing this, the fan reaction. It's like, I think that is something that maybe Favreau and Filoni see. They see the reaction and they don't take hostility to it. They embrace it and they say, okay, these people are passionate. How can we make everybody happy?
Well, I think it's because if you use The Mandalorian as an example, I think to a degree, you lose, and again, controversial statement, to a big degree, even Kurtzman with Star Trek, and I know that's going to rage quit somebody, but like, I think they do care about the stories, and they care about the worlds that they're in, and they're passionate about those worlds, and they're trying to make them better. The difference in all of those with it sounds like from the Batwoman perspective is that was clearly, it seems like it was clearly made in a think tank scenario of like a box of, we got to check all these boxes and do all these bits, and the passion behind it wasn't necessarily as authentic as it could have been. There might have been passion from the creation side of it, like the craftsmanship, but maybe not passion for actually what the story is supposed to be. And it's clear that that's what you get from, I mean, you look at the quality of it, that's what you get from The Mandalorian. You even had it from The Expanse in my opinion, the first 3 seasons, and then they lost it. And I don't know what happened, but The Expanse to me fell apart. Part of it's release, but part of it is The Expanse just kind of got muddy. It's a big muddy story. I don't have as much interest in watching it. It used to be my favorite sci-fi show. That's a good point.
Did Thomas Jane die on the show? Because I saw that he's only up till like season 3.
Yeah, it's a weird scenario. He comes back and forth. He's not really on the show beyond the season, except for like an interesting perspective, and it's good. Seasons 1 through 3 are really pretty cool. They really are. Then season 4, it's such a jump. It's just weird. It feels like it left one network and went to another. It just has that. Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels it for sure. The congruency is gone. The one thing we talked about of a show that does this right, that handles and I think it's brilliant. I hope that it does get. Is it totally gone? But what the show would be the Orville.
No, I mean, they're still doing season 3, but it's been on hiatus because of COVID, I guess. Even though they're still doing season 3, but they're saying, and I think they're going to go all out on season 3, but it might be the last season.
Well, the thing is, that's the show that does it right. It does it better than Star Trek ever did. Like, it is so well done in handling. I mean, it just handles things so well and so blatantly not silly, because it's so I don't know how to describe it. It's like perfect satire. Like, it is absolute perfect satire of our current situation with life. There's an episode in season 1, I think it is, where the currency on this planet is basically social likes, and if you get enough downvotes, you're murdered. Like, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
And why, that clearly seems like a Black Mirror episode, right?
Yeah.
To me, the problem with Black Mirror, and people love the show, is there's rarely ever solutions. So in the Orville, they had to present the problem,
right?
Have people experience the problem, and then come up with a solution while in the problem, all within the confines of like that 42-minute episode. Whereas in Black Mirror, things just kind of happen. They're weird, and they play that song that's in like 5 episodes for whatever reason. I don't know why. and then it's just some weird ending, and they don't really solve anything. And to me, that's just lazy.
Yeah, it really is. It's just it's kind of the way things have spun right inside of that space.
Yeah,
it's definitely spun that way. All right. So what do you say in the TV category? What do you declare as your best of the worst fail in the television category? We have Quibi. We have the Pablo versus disrespect of fandom sort of versus theory. I mean, disrespect of fandom. And then the too much politics in TV content.
I'm probably going to stick with the kind of the whole idea behind the Pablo harassing fans type thing. I mean, I stopped watching TV for the most part. I watch guys on YouTube. I find them more entertaining. Like I don't want to watch Discovery myself, but I will watch Nerdrotic's review of Discovery. Like it's more entertaining to me.
No, I get it. I totally get it. I mean, listen, Robot Head is my jam, right? And you turned me on to Robot Head, and I love the cynicism. I'm going to go with the Quibi thing just because as a filmmaker or former filmmaker, I just find it super fascinating, like how much of a CF it was and how, like, talk about failing, but potentially failing forward. So Jim's pick was the disrespect to fandom, a relatively recent scenario. Both of ours are, which is the Pablo versus Theory, Star Wars Theory. If you want to learn more about it, you can go look it up. Maybe we'll throw it in the show notes after the fact. And then on the Quibi, for me, it was Quibi, which is a $350 million lasted 6 month endeavor during a pandemic when everyone was stuck in a couch. No one watched it. So why? And it's fascinating to me. All right, so our next category is going to be, it's a little bit of a hot topic. And I've got a personal sort of relationship with some of it, which will be the video game / technology sort of space, and specifically more so about video games. But can I jump in there? Do you want to go for the heavy hitter first?
Yeah, let's just do it.
Let's do it. Listen, Cyberpunk 2077 is a pile of is the giant pile of poo in Jurassic Park.
In 1 or 3, because that does make a difference.
Wait, 3 is an entire pile of poo. The entire movie.
That is the right answer.
Yeah, Cyberpunk 2077 is Jurassic Park 3. That's our new rating scale for terrible. Because it should have been good, right? It should have been good. It had some cool ideas, but in my opinion, the execution failed. And the biggest fail from it, and I owned the game. I did play it, and I played it regularly. I was not as bothered by the bugs as many others were. But in the back of my mind, I did keep wondering why it just kept shutting down on me. I'd be in a great firefight and it would shut down. And the thing that ticks me off the most about it is I wasn't going to buy it. And I think Jeff Etheridge, who is at some point going to join us on this show, but maybe not this episode, but Jeff was in the same way. Somehow I got talked into it, and it frustrates me that it didn't hook me enough to stay with it. And then once the bugs happened, and I blame the internet journalist because I watched a ton of pregame videos and I was super hyped for it. But again, I bought it on a PS4 because I don't have a PS5. We'll talk about that in a second. And I ended up playing it for a solid, I don't know, however long it's been out, since it's been out. And then 2 days ago, I put in for my refund because I just was like, I'm done with it. It's just, I couldn't make myself go back and play it. It was so buggy and stupid, frankly. Like, I'm hoping I get my refund because it was just stupid.
So I was listening to Beat 'em Ups. That's another, it's kind of like a video game channel, and somehow just randomly clicked on it today. And he did a great, like, in-depth kind of take on everything that was wrong with it, and not just from like the glitchy bugginess perspective, but then also the lies. Like, they lied for years about how awesome this video game was, how the NPCs were non-playable characters were going to be able to interact with you in meaningful ways.
They do not. Me and Jeff Etheridge Melissa spoke of this too. You walk up to them, they're like, "Hey, how you doing? Get away from me! Hey, here's an apple. Look at this." And then it'll be like, "You want to sleep with me?" And it's like, I got it. In the future, we're just sex-crazed maniacs with robot heads.
Yeah, and the same thing with, like, the cars. They can't change lanes unless it's a pre-scripted animation take part during a mission. So you can, like, just block a car and it's not going to go anywhere. These are things that, like, Grand Theft Auto probably 4 had, like 12, 13 years ago now. So it's like, it's a major, major fail. I heard people saying that, the game will be complete by the summer. And it's like, well, why did you make people spend $60 plus for something that wasn't complete? And that's like a new trend, is that whole, like, we're going to beta test with people that have 13 million copies out there.
And that's what Cyberpunk 2077 really represents, is the beta test, is the pay for beta test, which is absolute garbage. And it backfired on them. And I'm glad it did, because maybe that changes the way the industry works a little bit, but it is a tremendous fail, but financially it's a fail if you're just looking at it from a gaming perspective, a storytelling perspective, you had people that have been waiting for this game for years. And I mean, my God, I remember the trailer. The trailer was fantastic. The first trailer, I think was that the one that had the Nirvana cover song in it, if I'm not mistaken? There's like a real slow Nirvana song. Anyway, it's wicked and super hyped for it. Looked amazing. And then 10 years later, I got this and like literally playing it the other night. Where I gave up is I literally was jumping to shoot a dude in the head, and it just gave me the woo. My fan spun up on my PlayStation. Went to the screen. I got the little sound, and it's like sending bug report, and I was like, don't bother, just sending refund report.
It's just crazy to me because the media pushes the narrative that the studios want to act like is fact that single player games are dead, which Jedi Fallen Order disproved last year because that was a huge game and it was a purely single player experience and it was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. It was kind of buggy at times and repetitive, but it was like getting saturated in that Star Wars universe in a way I haven't since like 2002 with like the Jedi Outcast games.
Yep.
Really awesome. But they don't really talk about that. That was a success.
Well, they don't. I know it's not your favorite thing, but Last of Us 2 was exactly that. It's a single person experience that tremendously did well, like did brilliantly well. It was, again, controversial to some, but it did really well. And it's another argument for the single player experience.
Yeah. And that one's an interesting one because the toxic fandom against it.
Yeah, that was a bizarre one too, because I watched all of it, and maybe we'll do a piece on it with Etheridge. He's played it several times all the way through, and I don't think in him talking about the way he talked about it, he made it sound amazing, and he wasn't selling it. He just made it sound amazing, and not once did any of the stupid crap that people are upset about come into that conversation.
And I mean, if you think about it, it's about the narrative of being spoiled. Because people were spoiled and they didn't like the spoilers, and maybe if they didn't experience it being spoiled, they might not have hated it during the actual gameplay.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe not. I don't want to say that for sure, but just the fact there was such that strong reaction to those spoilers.
Yeah,
was amazing. Like and maybe a good way, maybe a terrible way. But then, of course, where they got in trouble was that Neil Druckmann started kind of antagonizing those people that didn't like it.
Right. So it turned into that he's defending his brand, and it turns into that sort of look. Those same individuals that complained about it, I guarantee you probably bought it.
Yeah,
that's the funny thing about the internet. Back to Melissa's comment, and you and I've said it multiple times too, is that people are going to gripe about it because they have the anonymity to do so, and then they turn out and still buy the game. And they're like closet Last of Us 2 fans that have ranted and raved on Reddit for 12 days about how it's terrible that there's a non-binary character in it or whatever.
Yeah.
Never even comes up. Stupid.
Speaking of that, can you pull up Star Wars, the High Council, Star Wars, the High whatever the new thing that was announced yesterday?
High Republic?
Yeah. Did you see those pictures I sent you via text last night?
I thought those were like jokes.
No, that's why I said it was real. And
I can't find them now.
It was the official like Star Wars webpage that I grabbed them from. So it was like on the press release for Star Wars. It's probably just StarWars.com - the High Republic. And maybe not. Yeah, I mean they're on there. And there's just one that I want to particularly talk about. It is a little bit of it was controversial today.
Oh, great. All right, stand by. Let me bring the page live. Give me 1 second here. We just gotta hit this little button.
Well, mayonnaise salsa.
All right, there you go.
If you scroll down, there'll be like kind of a full width picture of one of the characters right there. That one.
So what happened with Jamoram?
Well, apparently some people got in trouble because they misgendered this individual.
Like writers got in trouble?
YouTubers, people on Twitter. What gender is that, Drew?
I don't. I'm scared to answer that now. I have no idea. If I look at it, to me, I mean, characteristic wise, I would draw it upon as feminine.
Yeah, I immediately thought it was feminine. I mean, it's a guy, and how are you supposed to know that? Like, that's just my thing. Like, how are you possibly supposed to know that? It's a made up name, and then they make all the characteristics completely unilateral, like because they make the men and women look the same. So why would anybody be upset about that whenever?
Okay, so if you look at this image, clearly they decide to put feminine features in that side of things. Look at this one.
Yeah,
like here's a prime example of when you don't have to. So why would you, unless, okay, I would have been more accepting of it if they would have said it was someone that was non-binary or their gender wasn't disclosed. It was just what it was. But to light somebody up over it, like, again, very clear male character. I don't understand. I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and if you look at Ram, like it's got like that shaved hairline. It's like why are we giving people in Star Wars the fads and looks of today? That one might not be. I don't know what that gentleman is doing. Assuming that's a gentleman, I can't be certain.
Well, you can't now. I mean, again, Star Wars names are no indicator, so you can't exactly use those sort of cues.
Yeah, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with however anybody wants to present themselves, but how are we supposed to know? And what's the basis? Just looking at it, like maybe there's some in-depth description of a book that individual character is listed in. I don't care about that. I'm going to look at it on face value and make a determination.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It's nothing worth raging about, I mean, the quality of how bad the artwork is probably worth raging about more than anything.
Well, I don't understand what this is for. A book series, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't get it. Well, we'll just go ahead and preemptively prep that for 2021's.
Well, the fail was that it was supposed to come out last August.
Oh, well, there you go. How can you blame COVID on book writing? I don't
know. They did the same thing with that new Warriors with Daniel Kibblesmith.
Yeah.
So, and then that might have finally come out. I don't think it has, because I think that would be a huge deal for the nerdum online, because everybody would and mock it, for better or worse. But
2 quick comments popping in. Red Dead 2 really nailed NPC interaction. Nothing comes close. I would 100% agree with you there. Red Dead 2 had fantastic NPCs. Game was not my favorite, but the NPCs, the non-player character interaction was great.
And that was definitely one of the things in that beat 'em ups video that they talked about, was that Red Dead, you could go into a store on Red Dead, pick up physical items to buy as part of the system for the in-game merchandise, and you could see it, you can touch it before you bought it. Whereas in this one, it just takes you to like a cut screen with a typical cut screen type thing with a list of items you can buy.
It's terrible. The buying interaction in the game is horrible. Like I didn't. I think Jeff probably spent more time. We talked a little bit about it. He spent some time actually plugging in upgrades and doing all this stuff. I didn't even buy a single thing. So I would sell everything just so I could have money for no reason. It was not for me. Yeah. Another comment he was posting just to keep us flowing is just Last of Us 2 is especially fascinating because the fandom is literally split between 2 subreddits. The Last of Us 2 subreddit is all haters. The original Last of Us subreddit is for fans who loved it, which is exactly what has become fandoms. They're always
Skywalker. It's the sequel trilogy with how they treated Luke versus The Mandalorian, how they treated Luke so far, and it's absolute love.
Yeah, it is. It's a great point. All right, so that's one of them. So we tangented there a good bit, went off on some deep dive, but that's what we do on this show. That's why we're just delightful. So Cyberpunk 2077 is nominee number 1 for Video Game Tech Fail of the Year. The next is, and these are pretty brief, and we can go through them, but the PS5 freak out is fascinating to me. I knew several individuals that were losing their mind trying to get their hands on a PS5 and were willing to pay nearly any price. And it goes back to a sucker born every minute type scenario, because I feel like, why And they weren't getting it to play Cyberpunk. They just wanted a PS5 because everyone told them.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And there's no value in it. There's no real games out that are really pushing next gen. Maybe again, Cyberpunk possibly, and I'm sure Miles looks fantastic, Miles Morales. But like nothing was overly like, oh, I gotta truly experience this scenario.
Yeah, one of my better friends, he said he promised his kid it for Christmas. So he went out on eBay and ended up spending like $900 on it. And I just never understood it from like day one. Like, what is the kid going to do on it once he gets it? Like, play his old games like just a little bit faster. Like, and I don't know. And I was honest with him, and I told him I didn't really understand it. And he said, well, I promised my kid. And I'm like, okay, from that perspective, I get it. So maybe there's a whole lot of people out there that just promised their kid the red.
The dude that I know that bought it, and he's a delightful, lovely human being, nicest guy ever, tiniest.
Tiny wiener.
Yeah. Anyway, he's a great fella. He just wanted it, and he just got into the hype train and just wanted it, and then had no real reason for why. And he paid. I think he paid $700 or $800 for his. It's like, man, that's just, it's crazy. I saw some of them going for 12. I heard of people buying them for over $1,000. 1,200 is one of the stories I heard, which is my brain can't even handle that. Why?
No.
Because it's a fad, and like so much else, it just, the internet stirs it up, and then people go crazy and they do stuff like buy freaking PS5s. Anyway, I think that's a fail in the sense that like it's a fantastic system, so there's no issue with the system. It's great. There's not even a fail at launch. It's the freak out that's the fail, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just one of those things where that's not even like a thing that was like stirred up too much by the media. That actually was more of a social movement and a kind of a bot movement, because there were like, even last week they said that there was like 20,000 bots that tried to buy a new package or a new what's it called, like a new shipment whenever like they renewed.
Oh wow.
Walmart. Yeah, they got attacked by like 200,000 bots in a period of like 5 minutes of bots trying to buy it.
That's insane.
Yeah,
absolutely.
How does a normal human being compete against that, for one? And two, why would you? Like, let them win and let them get their, like 10,000 PlayStation 5s that are going to sit in a warehouse for 6 months because nobody wants to buy them. Like that would be, if we were smart, we'd just let them sit there and not pay the $800, $1,200.
There's no purpose. That's the thing. There's zero purpose in doing it. Equal to that, which is a lesser known story. And again, I don't think either one of us play Fortnite, but it's a really fascinating story when you hear about the Apple Fortnite battle. And I threw this one in there because I thought it was interesting that here you have like iPads, and I knew several kids, like clients' kids, or my kids don't play Fortnite. They're too young, but other kids that were really hardcore into it, and they're all playing on their iPad. And it was like a big deal. They're constantly playing. And then one day Apple's like, we don't like how you're doing your transactions. It's as if Epic, the manufacturer or the gaming company, is trying to kind of skirt behind Apple's 3% policy or whatever it is. And Apple gets mad and says, no, you're off our store. You broke policy. Well, Epic's like, well, we make tons of money, man. We print money over here. So they go off and just say, fine. They sue. They try and anyway, it's turned into this whole fiasco. And I think it's back on iPads based on the research I could come across. It's back on iPads, but it's through another like gaming service. So it's almost like a Steam for your iPad. I think it's NVIDIA or GeForce or something like that. So you have to go through another service in order to get it there. And that's the only way they're legally allowed to get around it. Think about all those kids. Like, it went black. Like, it totally shut down. Like, it went away for a while, and you can no longer play, which I think is a fascinating scenario.
Yeah.
And I brought it up. The reason I thought it was important is because it's the first time. It's not the first, but it's one of the times that happened, and it got some fanfare, but not necessarily as much as, like, again, Cyberpunk 2077 has been pulled from purchase from the PlayStation 4 store and from the Xbox One store or whatever. I don't have Xbox, so I have no idea. So that, I mean, what do you say? What's your video game fail of the year?
It's probably everything behind The Last of Us 2.
You can't bring that one in. You can't just add it in there.
it wasn't on our list. I don't know, just because there was so much hate. You know, like if we're gonna be just delightful, there was just so much hate behind that from both sides.
Crazy. It was crazy. All right, I feel you on it. I think it's a reasonable statement, and we'll throw it in there. We talked about it a little bit.
I don't want necessarily the game might not be the fail of the year, but maybe it is. But the hate surrounding it is really bad.
Yeah, the hate around it's fascinating to me because it's just feeding itself, and apparently it's still going, which is even more bizarre to me.
Yeah,
it's been played. It's I think it has replay value for hardcore fans like Jeff, but not necessarily for everyone. So fascinating that I'm going to go with the Cyberpunk scenario because I found myself completely inundated. The fail to me is that something was promised, and it's not that it wasn't just under-delivered. It was delivered so poorly, it's not even funny. And I've never seen a game get pulled for like a major title release get yanked, and then you watch what it's done financially to the company, to Red Sparrow or whatever they're called. Just seeing them all get yanked down like that is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into the movie side of things, which is another spot. This is probably where our bread and butter really is. This is what we like to talk about the most. And I'm gonna kick it off with an apology, and I'm gonna apologize to people who enjoyed the movie Tenet. And the reason I'm going to apologize is because I jumped on the bandwagon unfairly, and I bashed that movie having not seen it. Talked a little bit of trash about it and had not seen it. And you watched it, Needle.
Yeah.
Mr. Needle watched it and said, "Hey, if you have a chance, watch Tenet, but when you do, turn the subtitles on." And I was like, "What is he talking about?" But I trust you, and I think that was important. And I've told this to everyone I've met who's not. I watched Tenet with the subtitles on, and hot damn, that was a fun movie, right? I would have been pissed if I would have saw it in the theater because the sound mix is atrocious. It's awful. I don't get it. I don't understand what they were going for. But my goodness, if it wasn't a fun ride when I could read what the hell they were saying. It's kind of like I wish I could have done the same thing for the movie Primer. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah, I mean, because it felt a lot like that movie too.
It did. It just was some great action scene with great set pieces in Tenet. There was some really nice stuff. It was a little empty in spots where it just felt like things weren't populated as much, but it was still very good.
So with Tenet, one of my friends said to me last week, he was like, yeah, I couldn't understand the dialogue, but I didn't really mind because I like the music so much.
That's right. It's all the same. Is that Hans Zimmer that did that score?
No, it was the same guy that does The Mandalorian.
Oh, good for him.
Good artist.
Yeah, he's a talented guy. He writes some oddly fascinating music.
Yeah, he did Creed, which was a really good score for the first one, at least.
Yep.
It's just I don't know how many of these guys. Like, this is actually kind of an interesting point. It'd probably be a pretty cool video. Would be to talk about, because I watched The Rock last night, which I think was Hans Zimmer, maybe it's one of his cronies. But like the list of people that have come from like the Hans Zimmer school of composition is amazing. Like, there's probably like 15 different composers that have kind of been his apprentice or somehow worked with him and have that similar vibe. It's really interesting.
Yeah, he's despite his look, it goes back to the same argument about who's the master there. Like, it could be that someone does all the work, but at the end of the day, it's under his guidance and it's his final brushstroke that makes the whole piece come together, right? So you have to question, like, are you celebrating the craftsmanship, or are you celebrating the art of knowing how to put it all together in a way? You know, that's the beautiful part of Zimmer's sort of ability to find better people, right?
Yeah, I'm really interested in his Bond score. I mean, I'm underwhelmed by his Wonder Woman score. And so
that's terrible, awful. I don't want to bash it yet. I'm gonna
because we can clip that into its own video later. So let's not cross the streams.
Yeah. So Tenet, the fail in Tenet to me is that it needed not to go to theaters. It should have been a straight video release, and it would have been hugely more successful, I believe.
I feel, to me, and I said this to you offline, it felt like a pilot to maybe the best TV show ever that we're not going to get.
I would watch the crap out of a TV series based on that. I think it would be fantastic.
Because they didn't. I mean, what I really liked was the relationship between the protagonist and Robert Pattinson's character, which we didn't get.
Yeah.
There were no relationships in it. We were told about relationships that existed, but they didn't put it in the movie, which is either a genius decision or a terrible decision, and I don't know which. But that makes it feel like it's a pilot that because you want to see that so bad, it leaves you yearning for that relationship. So I don't know. It's such a very divisive, interesting movie. And I think it's Christopher Nolan's Vertigo. I think it's going to be looked on in years in much light.
Agreed. So it's one of the examples where, from again, Just Delightful, it is fantastic. There's something great to come from it, and that is that it's a really good movie. The downside is the failure was the release of it. It just didn't work. Which is a funny one.
It did internationally. I mean, it made like $360 or something internationally, including I think the United States. That's not terrible internationally because the United States was only like 45 or something. I'm probably a little bit off, but that is terrible. Like it needs to make at least like 250 here, probably 300, and it probably should have made 450 worldwide.
Well, considering what it was meant to be, like the original release of that movie was a big tentpole movie. It's not like it was a smaller release point. It was in a tentpole slot initially, and then COVID comes along and it remains a tentpole, and or it has to be. It doesn't have a choice, and so I commend them for putting stuff out in the theater. I think that's great. I just don't think that was the movie I would have done. Nor would I have even put out the next movie on the list, which would have been New Mutants. I don't even think that movie should exist. It is baffling to me how bizarrely strange that film is in terms of, I can't believe it's a Marvel movie. I really just can't. I don't get it.
It's just weird whenever you have like the people that are involved with those movies behind the scenes, and it's like the same people that have had successes with the X-Men series, and then they also have had massive failures. And it's like, how do you go from having something like Days of Future Past, which was a really solid movie, it's redundant, and it has all the beats that every other X-Men movie have ever had, but it did them all really well, and it introduced the new one with Quicksilver. And then you do something like this using kind of the same core creative team. I mean, all the blame cannot just fall on the director on this one, because he just
it's a paramountly magical fail of failures. And it would be different if the movie were entertaining, but it's just not. It's just not entertaining, and it's a mess. And you can see the seams of. I mean, it's a Frankenstein. It's funny. Let me see if I can find it, because if you look at the original or look at one of the posters for it, the poster actually tells you all you need to know. If I can find, here it is. How do I just get the photo up there? Well, I'll just share the. There we go.
Oh, as you're saying this, I'm going to jump back just a tiny bit because I think this relates to New Mutants as well. But it's Christopher Nolan's reaction to Warner Brothers saying that their 2021 slate was going to be on HBO Max only, or not only, but at the same time as theaters. And he reacted very, very poorly. Like, he was pissed. And I think, and it's like, that's not the actions and the words of somebody who thinks they're going to get another budget. I don't think it's like franchises are going to be getting budgets, and new ideas are not going to get budgets. I mean, we were already kind of hanging on just by a string to the idea that Christopher Nolan could get budgets. And now I think Christopher Nolan knows he's not going to get budgets. He'll get like $100 million. He's not going to get like the 250 that he probably got for Tenet.
Oh yeah, sure. And then the marketing budget's going to drop. And the biggest flaw in Hollywood is that they rely so heavily on the marketing budget that they don't really care about the story much anymore, which is evident, again, based on the new mutant scenario. And the reason I brought up the poster is that it's just how jagged and broken. And I get the artwork. It's a cool piece of art. I understand what they're trying to do. It also looks like patchwork to me, which is exactly how the story flowed. Like one just awful patchwork piece of junk flowing together. It's fascinating additionally because from a release standpoint, they still put the movie out. I have an interesting perspective that I should tell audiences, our viewership about down the road, or whoever's listening or whatever, is that me and Jeff, who is our one fan at the moment, me and Jeff, our office is in a movie theater building. It's not like connected. It's literally in the theater building. Like I walk out of my office and walk so many feet, and I'm in the movie theater. It's a very strange arrangement. So we are very intimate in watching how audiences react to stuff, and so we're seeing it's a small theater. It's like a dine-in style. So there's three major theater big rooms there, two big rooms and one small one, and so we watch how they process through it. And New Mutants oddly drew in a crowd, but it was for like literally that weekend, and then the word got out, and it just didn't work anymore. And unfortunately, the movie theater was happy to have any kind of income right now because of COVID, but it was piss poor because the movie was piss poor, and people said that. So it's an unfortunate scenario to see. It's another one I wish they would have just held. Meanwhile, this movie went to theaters, and I will say it's weird because I don't like this movie a lot, and I don't like it for very specific reasons, which I'm sure you do too. And there's a lot to say in this conversation. But Wonder Woman is doing very well theatrically, which watching this little independent theater owner, he asked me if I saw it, and I said, yeah, I did. I watched it on HBO Max. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm just not doing the theater thing right now. And he was like, no, that's cool. What'd you think? And I was like, yeah, it's not really for me. And I didn't want to go too far into it. He's like, I loved it. I was like, did you? He was like, yes, because I've had butts in seats for the past, like he's been selling out shows. And again, it's a smaller theater, but he's been selling out shows repeatedly.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, Wonder Woman is literally as bad as it is. So as we say, just delightful, you fail. The movie's a failure, in my opinion. We'll talk about it. But I just wanted to put out there that I think from the independent theater side, and just all theaters, Wonder Woman is saving movies right now. Whether we like it or not, Wonder Woman is quite literally saving theaters. So if you enjoy going to the movie theater, maybe even out of just niceness, buy a ticket to Wonder Woman. Because the one thing, and that sounds bizarre to say, the movie's god awful. You can watch it for free on HBO Max, but is that if you do buy that little movie, you buy that little indie theater a ticket, at least you're showing support towards that, and it's going to go a lot further than not. So just a thought. Now, it's a Jurassic Park 3. I'm sticking with it. I don't even know where to begin because I'm not going to do a review of it. Maybe we will eventually.
Well, I think we begin with saying that everybody knew it was a bad movie going back more than a year.
They had to have, man.
Well, and it's funny to me that nobody's talking about this right now, is the fact that there were test screenings more than a year ago, exposed, probably on Reddit, but Bounding in the Comics put an article out about it. The entire plot was out there. Like I remember watching somebody talk about it in a YouTube video, talking about the magic rock, talking about how Cheetah was terrible, talking about how like every beat for beat, how Steve Trevor was some other guy, or took another guy's body. The entire thing was out there and it got refuted. But you put on a movie that is so divisive. Generally, I think not as divisive as The Last Jedi. I think just more over people just didn't like Wonder Woman 84, or just thought it was okay or whatever. But they knew for a year that the movie was bad. Warner Brothers knew for a year. Patty Jenkins knew for a year. And they still have to go out there and promote that. Imagine having to spend a year of your life knowing something is coming out that you put a year or more of your life into, and knowing that the audience is going to think it's mediocre. That's wild.
Yeah. It's very true.
About it.
No, it's very true. I just was looking at its box office, and it's currently, as of, when was this? The 3rd, so 2 days ago, its box office was at a total, its global box office was at a total of 118.5 million. Now, part of that's because we've had like the surge of pandemic or because of COVID surging, and I get it. Like people aren't going to go out as much, but again, to the indie theater, it was a big deal to that guy. And I think the bigger change, it's probably not, but to the indie theater, he was just happy to have butts and seats for a bit. And the fact is, they knew it was that bad. That's why they did the HBO Max release. It makes me wonder if all these other movies are that bad because now we're all going to be hypercritical. You got to think of it this way, and this is bleak, and I apologize, but I want to be honest about it. Are you willing to risk your life to go see Wonder Woman 1984? That's the question. Are you willing to risk your life to go see right now, current status of the world? Hopefully, this is so outdated in a couple of weeks, but are you willing to risk your life to go see James Bond? Are you willing to risk your life to go see Dune? Right? Because that's essentially, in some ways, what could be. Because COVID happens and is odd to everybody. That's fascinating. I think studios are panicking, and that's why that's why WB is doing this whole, or Warner is doing this whole thing.
I did go see Tenet in theaters back in August.
Yeah.
It might have been early September, but it was in South Dakota.
That was a big dip, though. We were down back then. That was the good old days a whole couple months ago when the numbers were lower.
Yeah, no, totally. It was starting to actually, like, right when we got back from that vacation, it had just started to go back up in, like, Pennsylvania and Alabama and other places. But, yeah, so now, no, I wouldn't go now. Do I miss it a ton? Not really. Do I miss sports a ton? Because I haven't been watching NFL either for other personal reasons. And, you know, things of what has filled that gap? Like YouTube in a lot of ways. Listen to people's content on YouTube. I'm watching Cobra Kai now as I work out. I'm only mentioning that because the one thing that Cobra Kai does, I think it's primarily just a soap opera, and most of the scenes with the kids, I don't really find all that interesting. But what it does is basically every couple episodes, it has the Luke Skywalker Mandalorian ending.
Oh,
they reintroduce a piece of whatever that lore was. They tease it to get you hooked to the next episode. And then it's okay. It does a serviceable job of keeping you interested. So I understand some people love it, and that's cool. But it does that thing, and it brings you back as a fan to hit the things that you want to hit. It's a little bit maybe too heavy on the fan service, but at the same time, it doesn't do it all at once like other things do. It spreads it out nice and slowly so that it gives you a reason to keep coming back. And,
I totally get it.
And like from a perspective of, you know, again, like retaining an audience and having people talk about it, like way more interesting than just dropping, even though they did drop all the episodes at once on Netflix, because I don't know how Netflix is going to continue doing that because there's no buzz. But yeah, so I don't know. That's all I have to say about that one because it is a nice thank you to the fandom. If you can even say like the Karate Kid has a fandom.
Oh, it does. It 100% does. I mean, that's a whole separate scenario of talking points. Like, it has maybe it's got the most least toxic fandom out there right now. I've yet to meet a karate. The only argument I've ever heard about Karate Kid was some people like Karate Kid 2 more than Karate Kid 1. That's it. I'm so obscure. I like Best of the Best 2 over Best of the Best 1. What do I know? I have a Jim Cotta poster that sits in my office. I mean, that's my world. Back to the Wonder Woman bit. The issue I have with Wonder Woman at the end of the day isn't that it was a super flawed movie. My biggest complaint about Wonder Woman was it's as if someone thought that was good storytelling and didn't bother to kind of check themselves, like just logically thinking through stuff. Like there's so many bizarre moments. And I'm going to approach it from this perspective. My two girls, 7 and 4, that's their names, by the way. They're Borgs. They watched it for like 20 minutes, and it's the same 20 minutes that I absolutely adored. I love the opening. I don't care about the little girl doing her stuff. I love the super 1984. Feels like we're watching Superman 2. It's just so dated in the right way. The camera angles, the movements, the whole opening sequence of that little teasing in Wonder Woman is absolutely glorious, and I love every second of it. And then it just suddenly becomes a modern movie. So why was it set in the 80s? Like, why was it even in the 80s?
Yeah.
And because of that, I'm celebrating it. Like, I think she's fantastic. Gal Gadot is not just maybe the hottest woman on the planet to me. I think she's great as Wonder Woman. She fits it. It's great. And the first Wonder Woman for me was it a joy to watch. For DC Films to go ahead and specify it was even better. But then we have a strong female character by a strong female director that actually told a good story and led the front. So if it's the feminist argument is great. I support it. Wonder Woman, yes, get behind it. I can't get behind the people saying that if you don't like that movie, which is currently what's shown up in my Facebook feed multiple times, and it's from what is the name of the site, the Mary Sue or something?
Oh my gosh.
That they're lighting people up for not liking it. And yes, there are probably a group of people out there that realize that they can trash the movie and make an anti-feminine or anti-female rant about it and get attention. Sure,
that's all great attention.
But it's because it's just not a good movie, and it's okay. The fault is let's let it be a failure, move on, know what to do right next time. That's all you got to do. That's it.
So, if the Mary Sue really wanted to have better, strong female movies, then you would call the bad ones out for being bad so that they can get better, as opposed to keep putting garbage like this out because a certain segment of the audience acts like they like it. And we all know the Mary Sue puts that articles out because they want to be trolls. Like
they want clicks, they want advertising dollars.
Yeah, because they know that they're going to get the people that hate that opinion to actually go to the website. and
exactly right. And look, then they have. So what they then do is they take that click number and they show the number of clicks that people visited, and they show it to their advertisers to sell them on it. And what the truth is no one. I guess some people are like, "What's the bounce rate?" Well, if you put an inflammatory article out that it pisses somebody off, the bounce rate is really low because you're reading the damn article.
Yep.
I mean, it's in some ways, the Mary Sue is a brilliant advertising market.
Right. If these guys were smart that do the YouTube channels, they would find other ways of monetizing their thing. Right. I think Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers has done that with his subscription model, and good for him. He also won't put ads on his website. Also good for him. Yeah. So I think some other people are going to start going down that route and learning that, because there's such an audience for people like us that are just talking, even though we might have one person watching right now. But hopefully we can grow.
One person is important.
Absolutely, and hopefully we can grow.
Yeah, look, the whole point of Just Delightful is the conversation, right? And that's the whole thing. And that was the point of this. Is like, I knew that if we opened with a bang, I don't think our videos will ever be this long again. They might be. Maybe our live streams will be. But the point of this was to give us a little bit to stay on topic, but the rest of the time we're just going to turn it loose. And these are legitimately the conversation that Needle and I have nearly every single day we talk about something. I mean, bro love, he's like my best friend in the sense that I literally talk to the dude every day. And if I don't, then a couple of days go by and it builds up, and then we have like a 2-hour ham fest, right?
And we might only talk for 3 minutes too in a day. That's fine. So I think, and that for me, that's a good point to our friendship, is that there's other people that I avoid talking to because I know it's going to be an hour-long call.
Yeah, right. I'm with you.
That's really hard because I like the one of my friends. He shall remain nameless, but he's a movie guy, and I feel bad because I don't call him back as much as I should, but I just know it's going to be an investment on my time that hard, man.
No, I get it. Trust me, I totally get it. I think Melissa says that about me when I often call and go down that route and get in trouble. He's like, "Oh man, I don't want to deal with this dude." But I get it. I mean, that's part of it, right? But that's the point of the channel, is to explore these great movie topics and look at those from two perspectives and not just take the one perspective, pose both, and at least look at it and see. But look, most of the time, it's a bunch of trolls being assholes is what it comes down to. And so, we're the Ben Gay. I don't know what that means.
Nameless Ben Gay.
Nameless Ben Gay right here. It is what it is. Speaking of that, if you would like to follow us on all social channels, you're welcome to do so. Pretty much everything, if I'm not mistaken, is I don't know about Twitter. What's the Twitter one?
I think it's it's delightful _ just.
Okay. All right.
I had to do what I had to do.
We had to do it. If you would like to follow us on any of those bits, you're welcome to do so. We would appreciate it very much so. Again, I'm going to throw this up one more time. If you have any ideas or something you want to show, this artwork was commissioned by our dear friend or dear artist pal. I think we'll subtly roll his name out at some point. But if there's another piece you want that's in the same vein, let us know. We'd love to see it. Maybe next time we'll just work in so you can actually see how cool this animation actually is. It's part of Just Delightful and whatnot. Is there anything else we need to say? If I can figure out how to turn this, anything else we need to say before we kind of close this inaugural first annual tradition?
I don't know. I think it's fun. I think as far as our interaction on social, it's like I'm not quite sure how we'll handle that yet. I have been on Twitter a little bit this year under the name Just Delightful or the handle delightful _ just. And I've probably been a little bit more spicy than I should have been. And I cleared the decks. I cleared all of the tweets and the likes so we can start fresh as a team. But hey, we do have 72 followers on Twitter already because of my rowdiness. So that's a win.
On everything else, it's at Just Delightful. Is that correct?
A couple things. I think it's delightful _ just.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I think Instagram might be that as well. I have to deal with Instagram too because Instagram ended up inviting like all my friends and stuff or people that I was already had.
Is that correct? Is that the correct?
Yeah. Yep.
There you go. That's where you can find us on the Twitters. And on Facebook, though, it's just Delightful.
I don't know. Correct? What's the sheet say?
I'm trying to lean on you to pull up the sheet.
It's coming. For some reason, I'm logged into Film Boosters, and I need to be logged into my cell phone.
You need a little help with your business. Call Film Boosters.
One day we'll get into that.
One day we will definitely get into that. There's a lot of inside jokes you have to remind us about. If you want to hear one of our stories fully explored, we're happy to do that for you. But you must first spend some time.
I think that'll be a funny thing. That'll be a fun thing because like a lot of these other guys, they build friendships through their different streams whenever they have their kind of bukkake of
you worked in the word bukkake blitzkrieg.
It kind of is. Whenever they all get together, I don't know if they're doing it on each other or maybe just pick one guy in the stream, but
we were doing so well and then that was it. You just went down the old bukkake pop line.
Maybe if we say it fast enough, maybe YouTube won't understand what the word is.
Oh yeah, I wonder how that's going to get translated.
Bukkake.
Mealy bukkake. Sorry, Lil Wayne's World reference. Anyway, we don't know what our handle is. That's something I guess
it's coming. Instagram is delightful _ just.
All right, so if you want to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, it's delightful _ just. Those are probably the two best spots. On Facebook,
Are You Delightful?
Facebook is Are You Delightful?
Yeah.
All right, and on Facebook you can find us at Are You Delightful. So Facebook / Are You Delightful. We tried to get all the brands locked up, didn't happen. So maybe just at Delightful Just, and that'll get you where you need to go for the most part. If you just do that, make sure to follow us there if you want to catch up with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that little notification bell if you would like to watch us on YouTube again, listen again. We'll also have the podcast version of this coming out whenever we can. We'll put out podcast versions of this, and it'll be available via all the platforms for your listening enjoyment. And then finally, we'll shamelessly plug the fact that we don't have a Patreon yet, but when we do, we expect you to give us all of your money.
Yeah, I think we should set like a subscriber number base before, like that should be our goal.
I think we should do it with the one viewer. So
one viewer, not even a subscriber.
He's not even a sub. He's not going to sub. He refuses to sub. Anyway,
I mean, it would be cool to create more content like the animation we'll show in the future, and just a lot of stuff. It's like we both work in kind of the media production industry, and I would rather be doing this stuff and talking about fun stuff and applying our knowledge from that to this. Especially Drew. I think Drew has a very unique insight into the world of television, film, streaming, whatever, that maybe some of the other people don't, or some of them have it in comics and they brought it over. And so I think that could be an interesting thing for us to share with other people.
Yeah, look, I love, I worked in it for a long time. Melissa worked in it for a long time. As a script supervisor, he's got a different perspective too. So, I mean, you get people that actually work in the industry talking about it, and you get a different world. I worked as a director, and so anyway, yeah, I think that would be good stuff for us to do to help kind of just offer a new perspective. And again, just feedbacks. Like that's the bigger key is at an hour and 21 minutes. That's a long one, but it's a live stream. That's the point.
I can make thumbnails for the different topics, and we can like roll those out over like the next week or so too.
Yeah, that'd probably be nice because then that way people that listen to this version of it, that made it all the way to the end, are like, damn it, they're going to make a short version.
Yeah, I think that'll be more digestible. Some of the other guys do that. It seems pretty decent. It's like Timcast IRL, and then he just puts the whole thing up. He does chunks too, though.
No, he does chunks. He does chunks Salinas for sure.
Do you want to do the other Lethal Weapon one? Or do you just want to do it now and then we can clip it?
I guess we could just tack it on.
I
would love a quick break to run to the restroom.
Oh, please. Yeah, let's breakage then, and I will do the same.
Okay, well, that'll do it for this. You heard us talking. That's how transparent we are in this process of making it. So you can find us, as we said, at Just Delightful, delightful_just. There it is on Twitter and Instagram. Go there. We have a Facebook page too. If you want to watch it, we'll try and broadcast live there. But the big one is on YouTube. That's what we're really pushing for because we will have video essays coming out very shortly. Thank you again for watching, listening, and sharing. We truly appreciate it. And remember, you can always just be delightful.